Hey, welcome to Art with Ian. Today we're talking about character design. That's coming up next. All right, welcome to the character design series. This is episode 1. We're going to do a little series overview and then we'll get into talking about this episode's content, which is designing to spec. So, this is what we're going to be doing today. And then next week we'll be talking about getting inspired, which is basically gathering your reference material and looking to any film or games or anything that feels like it has a connectivity to the kind of character that the spec has, is making you think about, or, kind of connectivity, basically. So basically just gathering our resources, getting inspired and all that. Then we'll go into finding the design, which is basically going to be like we're going to be sketching, searching for the look we want, and that's basically just taking, referring back to that spec to make sure we're not getting too far away from what we need to be doing, and also referring back to that inspiration we got to, it can be easy once you start drawing to kind of, you've done all this work, you've gathered all these references, and then you start drawing and you just kind of, you go back to like just draw mode and you start trying to pull everything out of your head, even though you've got a reference sheet. So we'll be sketching and talking about making sure we're actually using our references properly. Once we find a design, in the next episode, we'll be refining that design. This will be, cleaned up line work, the painting process, that kind of stuff. And then at the very end, we'll do presentation. And presentation is super important. I think it's something that you really need to learn and understand if you're trying to make start a journey going into like client work. So let's say you're open for commissions and you've never really done any, or you've only done a few. Presentation is huge. So this whole entire series is kind of like a mock-up of what it would be like if you got a client and they sent you an email with the specs for their character and or characters. In this tutorial, we're going to do five characters. It's a whole team. It's a team of mercenaries, a sci-fi character design. So we're going to go over the specs, and then we're going to talk about what we need to build up a visual library so that we can, actually design these characters. Then we're going to sketch, refine, and present. And basically at the end of this, it'll be like it'll be like a mock-up of having gotten the spec, done all the work, and you've got now the piece you're going to send back to that client for approval. So, all right, so that said, let's go ahead and get into this. So first thing we're going to talk about is a little bit about designing to spec. So the reason we do this for ourselves, even though we don't actually have a client, the reason we do a mock-up of this in preparation for a client is because creating our own design specs creates boundaries, which helps us to narrow options and focus our ideas. So instead of going, you stare at that blank page and you go, what do I want to draw? You have no idea what to draw. And a lot of times you can just walk away frustrated because you start scribbling or something, and that lack of direction just leads to frustration more than it leads to finding an idea. So to sit and actually take some time and develop specifications within which you actually adhere to when you draw can really help you narrow your focus. And then if your ambition is to create art for a living, you'll need to get comfortable working to spec. So the sooner you start, the better. Basically, you don't want to get caught with your pants down the first time someone wants to commission you. And all you're used to doing is just whatever you feel like drawing, you draw. If you don't feel like drawing, you don't draw. And that's the extent of the pressure you put on yourself, which is totally fine if you're doing this for just for fun. But if your ambition is to get, into the industry or work as a freelancer or whatever, the sooner you can get yourself basically prepared to work under specifications and not feel pressured by it. I mean, you'll feel pressure, especially if it's a big client, but the more normal it feels to you, the better off you're going to be. You're not going to, you're not going to feel like you got taken off guard the first time that happens. You get an email and you go, crap, how do I do this? Okay, so, and then lastly, with specs, you can gauge the overall success or failure of your work with a more objective eye through the ability to cross-reference the design you came up with back to the original spec. So when you don't have a spec, you just draw and you either say I like it or I don't like it. But you can actually, with specs in place, you can finish the design, look at it, and then go back to the specs and say, did I actually succeed? If I'm the client and I hired me, does this feel like I got what I asked for? And that's really important. So we're going to look here now at my mock-up for the character specs. So let's pretend like I got an email today, and in that email, they had a team. They said, I want a team of mercenaries for my sci-fi, let's say, novel, and I want them all designed out so I can use them as I see fit in my promotional material or my cover or whatever. So this is the first one, the character, and the title is Mastermind. Okay, so for this one spec, I've highlighted what I would actually highlight in real life. I didn't, for the other characters, I didn't highlight this. But basically, I just wanted to show you that if you highlight certain points of that spec, it can help you narrow things down a little bit to like, what do I really, really want to make sure I'm focused on when I start the design? What's the most, like, what are the hot terms here? What are the key words? Group leader, okay? That says a lot about probably the posture, the general placement if you wanted to do like a team, a group, the whole team standing together. Race, Promethean, so a humanoid, they're giving me information here, so a humanoid race, so okay. Then skills, ex-military special forces. That's going to say a lot about posture, clearly confident, but why ex-military, okay, so trained in stealth, marksmanship, retrieval and extraction, hand-to-hand combat. So this is a badass, And then weapons, I highlighted the L43 rifle because a rifle feels like that might not be something every character has. Whereas a knife, maybe they all have a knife, or maybe they all have a pistol or something. But a rifle, this laser rifle, L43 rifle, might be unique to her character. And so you don't want all of the characters holding the same weapon. So that's why that got highlighted. And then in the brief, I see left for dead by her commanding officer. That is a huge deal. So now we got a cross-reference back to ex-military. This is why she's ex-military. Because they were she was at war with, whatever military force she was a part of, and her commanding officer left her for dead because probably the mission was a failure and it was easier to pull the plug than it was to go in and try and find her, or whatever the case may be. We don't know the rest of the details, but we know that's a pretty big deal. So she's going to be, in my head, she needs to look confident, but a little bit like there's something cold. There's something, she's clearly got an issue. You're going to have issues if the person you put your life on the line for, the team you put your life on the line for, leaves you for dead. It messes you up, right? That's going to mess you up. So that's a big deal. So that all plays into kind of her general expression, her posture, and then now the one thing we have to look at here is what did the client not give us? So we don't have eye color, we don't have hair color, we don't have clothing, we don't have anything for clothing, and we don't have height. So the two things you can do in this situation are, one, contact the client and with a list of things that you're not seeing information for, and say, hey, I noticed that you didn't specify these things. Is that left to artistic impression, or did you forget to say? Or two, you can just go with your gut of what you feel looks right, and if they ask you to change it, then you change it. That's personally, it's like one of those things where you don't really want to bug a client, but at the same time, you also don't want to assume too much. So in this case, with not having it, I would ask them. I would probably ask the client, and then when they got back to me, I would go from there. But for these, this is really not uncommon to get a spec and have those little things kind of forgotten, because they just dig into the real main core stuff. That's what they're thinking about. So, all right, so we've got, that's group leader. Okay, then the next character is the beater in the group. So they're the muscle. Okay, immediately that's telling me they are big, burly, right? They're vaguely reptilian, but not a lizard creature. They put this in all caps. That means like they really want to make sure that they don't just get a lizard face. Okay, clearly. Weapons, fist and feet, preferred but not always practical. They have a plasma cannon. Okay, that's cool. And then go through the brief and do basically do what we did with the first one. And then on to the next one. Res. Okay, so this is a thief and grifter. That means that apparently she is really good at getting into places and pretending to be someone or something that she's not. Looks like she was born on a mining planet. She's small, acrobatic, able to traverse. So apparently on her planet, she was able to traverse the most dangerous lava tunnel networks to retrieve an ore that can only be found there. And so because of the price this precious ore found, the ore is used in tech, and so because of the cost of what they can get for it, the people who own the mine actually valued what she was getting out of the mine more than her as a living thing. She's not a human. In fact, she's a Sephori, and apparently they're recently evolved land dwellers with clear indications of their aquatic heritage. So that's definitely a big deal to keep in mind as we're designing her. But she's going to have a bit of a coldness as well, where imagine growing up getting sent into these mines with your life is forfeit, basically. Like, we don't care if about your well-being, just bring us the ore. So that disconnect from what typically might seem like a normal moral living being's kind of way to approach life is going to be clear with her. So we're going to want to see in her expression just like very confident but very cold. With weapons, she's got dual energy daggers, like Durkin style. So if you didn't know what a Dirk dagger, like, you'd go look that up, right? There's a lot of research that has to be done if you don't know some of the terms or some of the weapons. So next character, Harold, aka Psych. So he's a hacker. His race is Terrian. He's a humanoid race as well. Weapons are a computer, anything with code, MR2 pistol, skills, AI communication, infiltration, coding, navigation, grifting, understudy, and basic piloting. So his brief is he was raised by wealthy parents on the central world, Alturia. Psych had everything growing up, all the latest tech at his fingertips, and an enrollment in the finest education programs credits could buy. But life bored him, and his path to becoming the next president of his parents' multi-trillion credit tech empire seemed like an endless bureaucratic red tape with no actual field work. So basically, he's growing up in this like world where it's silver spoon life, but there's nothing to excite him, and he's becoming very good at what he does in tech and all that. So in order to, basically spice up his life, he goes down a path like hacking and gets into trouble. As a result, he eventually gets in so much trouble he has to leave his homeworld and run away from the authorities and take refuge on the Outer Rim, which is obviously how he will have come into contact with this mercenary team. So that's pretty much him. For him, I think clearly we're going to need to see some kind of sign that he's very tech savvy, whether it be like a holographic projection over his arm that he's tapping on or something like that. But we need to sell that he's clearly the tech guy, right? So it's not as important to show a weapon with him. We might put a pistol on his belt or something to show that, he's got one. It says here he's got an MR2 pistol. So, and then last but not least, TU-84. And this is the pilot. It's a droid. He's a transportation unit, hence TU. The weapon is, his weapons are a custom fit long range shoulder cannon. So that would be something built onto his shoulder, like a cannon looking thing, and then dual SR3 pistols. So his brief is developed by Cyber Solutions Corp. TU-84 is a transportation unit programmed to fly barge vessels from the outer reaches to the central worlds with payloads which investors would consider too tempting for free-thinking crew members, even if many of those crews might actually be willing to charge less for services rendered than Cyber Solutions and other similar corps. So basically, he is just literally built to fly very efficiently and effectively with payloads that, human or humanoid or, sentient crews might go, we're going to steal this, right? And so initially hacked by Psych, TU-84 has been part of the crew for several rotations, freeing up Micah and Psych, who had previously taken turns piloting SS Resilience. So that's obviously the name of their ship. So basically, they hacked this barge transportation unit droid and brought him on, or it, onto the team to fly their ship. And then the custom fit shoulder cannon is probably something that Psych would have built, or I don't know. I'm not positive there, but anyway, so he's been cut, he's been modded out a little bit from just the basic, droid that he would have been when they got him. So anyways, so that is the team. I've had quite a bit of fun putting this mock-up together. I'm actually quite looking forward to digging in and getting all the references I need and getting inspired and getting to actually work on these guys on this team. So anyways, I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I hope that you're looking forward to going through this process. And I'm going to be putting like a link to a doc or like a downloadable document with these characters specs in it for you. And if you want to download and actually go through with me and do your own, like take the same specs and do your own designs of these characters based on how you kind of perceive them, and just have fun. It's going to be a great project, and I'm really looking forward to it. So anyways, I hope to see you guys in the next one. If you did like this video, don't forget to subscribe, ring the bell for notifications of future videos, and I will see you guys in the next one. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, share it with your friends, ring the bell for notifications of future videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one.